Welcome once again to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
There will be an ad at the end of this video. Now, this is an update to a story I did not so long ago that outraged a lot of people, and that was that Florida's got a new law on the books, and it, went into effect last year, but said that if any portion of your license plate was covered, you could get not just pulled over, but arrested, and it was a misdemeanor. And there were stories about people getting pulled over because in license plate frames, it covered small portions of the license plate. So you look at that license plate frame there, and it does cover up some part of the plate. Now, if you can still read the plate, you think that'd be okay, but no. So a lawsuit has now been filed. That's the update to the story. James sent me notes, and Steve, check this out. A lawsuit has now been filed over that law in Florida. So this is from CBS 12. I've also got some coverage here from NBC Miami. But lawsuit calls Florida's license plate law unconstitutional amid citations. Florida drivers are raising alarms over a new license plate law as a recent lawsuit claims its vague language has led to a wave of confusing and unconstitutional citations across the state. Sophie Pendrell wrote this about the recent lawsuit that claims that the law, which bans anything that blocks or covers a license plate, even dealership frames, is unconstitutional and lacks clear definitions of what constitutes a violation. So the argument is that the law, which is Florida Statute 320.061, prohibits altering or mutilating a license plate tag, but it doesn't specify what qualifies as alteration. The lawsuit says that this vagueness has led to various interpretations by law enforcement agencies, resulting in inconsistent enforcement across the state. Now, you'll recall in my previous video I talked about this, that a guy got arrested for this because one letter of the phrase Sunshine State was covered. And after his arrest, some officials said, yeah, that's not enough to arrest somebody. And so they sent out a memo to clarify it. But a clarifying memo does not straighten out an unconstitutional law. And the argument is that the law is unconstitutionally vague. So they filed a federal complaint in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, along with a motion in Miami-Dade County Court that argues the law is unconstitutionally vague under the Due Process Clause. They claim it does not provide clear guidelines on what behavior could lead to criminal liability. And again, remember, it's a misdemeanor, not just a civil infraction. In the federal complaint, they're seeking a statewide injunction against enforcing the law, and they want any citations issued under it to be expunged. Their state court motion argues the statute should be void and requests certification to the 3rd District Court of Appeal. Recently, I talked about a lawsuit in Florida where somebody was arguing about how there was a constitutional law issue. In their case, they're arguing at a lower court. And Florida's got this thing where you notify the higher-ups that there's an important issue at hand here. And that, I think, is what they're doing here. Also, since the law came into effect, they say there have been 422 criminal citations issued just in Miami-Dade County in 4 months. The problem lies in the law's failure to define what constitutes an alteration. One notable case involved a man who was arrested in December for a decorative license plate frame that partially covered the letter S in Sunshine State. So you're driving along behind somebody who's got a license plate frame, and you can read the entire thing except for that S. You know it's a Florida plate. You don't go, gee, what's the Unshine State? It's like the Uncola, right? It can't be Florida. Florida's the Sunshine State. After that man's arrest, the police apologized and issued a statement saying, at the initial release of this updated law, the wording was vague, unclear, and appeared to be open for misinterpretation. Since the release of a memo of clarification from the Florida Police Chiefs Association was provided to our department, our officers are educated on the application and use of this statute. Unfortunately, it appears this arrest was invalid, and we extend our apologies to the man who was arrested. So the police said that the wording was vague. And yes, a law can be construed as being unconstitutional because it's vague. Laws are supposed to put you on notice of what you're not supposed to do. It shouldn't be a guessing game. It shouldn't be a guessing game. So to help clear things up, back then, the Miami-Dade tax collector also sent out a flyer to clarify what was going on and to explain the new guidance. And a Davie police spokesperson said, as long as officers are able to read the numbers and the registration sticker, you can have a frame. If it's partially covering, where you can partially see Florida or just halfway see Sunshine State, you're all right. So the police said, well, we got this memo that clarified it for us, therefore we're okay, even though we admit that the law is vague. And so I'm here to tell you right now, I don't like license plate frames, but that's another story altogether. But I like the in and out license plate frame, but you notice I've got it on my wall. I don't have it on my car. And you'll notice that that frame would not cover the letters on the plate, nor does it cover where the sticker would go, where it says tab. And a little sticker that goes there with the year to indicate that you are current, okay? So the law is still on the books. In an attempt to help out, the Police Chiefs Association issued a memo, and they sent it out to their officers and said, here's how you interpret this law. While that is a fine and dandy thing to do, the way laws are interpreted is actually up to the courts. That's their job, okay? So if there's a memo that says, here's how you interpret the law, and a police officer didn't get the memo, literally and figuratively, and writes you a ticket, you got to go to court and argue and say, well, the law says this, but this memo says this. And a judge might well look at the memo and go, where are they in the judicial structure? You got your Florida Supreme Court, you got your courts of appeals, you got your circuit courts, et cetera, et cetera. Where do they fall in that Oregon chart? Oh, they're not in the Oregon chart. In fact, aren't the police a completely separate division of the government, a different branch than the judicial branch? Yes, they are. Oh, so it's not even their job to interpret the law, is it? It's their job to enforce the law. And while I admire and respect their efforts in this endeavor, it's not their job. So if the law is on the books and the law is vague, the law needs to be straightened out. And I have seen license plate covers that you couldn't read through. I've actually seen someone driving along the road with a dark license plate cover. And, people tint their windows, but it was a tinted license plate. You couldn't see through it. I'm like, are they trying to protect their license plate from the sunlight? What are they doing? And I've seen some also where there are parts that are covered up because the frame covers too much. And so I can understand a police officer saying, I can't read your license plate. I had to pull you over to figure out what this is. But the bigger problem is that this, on the books, in Florida, is a misdemeanor. It is a crime for which you can be arrested and theoretically spend time in jail for. And so it's not good to have a law on the books that is vague enough to where even the police don't understand it without somebody giving them a memo saying, here's how we interpret this law. Okay, how do the courts interpret it? That's the important question. So I admire the lawsuit. Thank you very much. I'm glad it got filed. We'll see what happens. But I suspect if you have a memo from a police organization that says the wording of this statute is vague and unclear and open for misinterpretation, if that is a traffic law that the police call vague, unclear, and open for misinterpretation, then it needs to be cleaned up. So this sounds like a job for the legislature in Florida. But if they're not up to it to do it immediately, well, then the courts can straighten it out. But again, over 400 people arrested, or at least charged with this, in Miami-Dade County in just 4 months. So again, this is an update of a story I did, but the lawsuit's now been filed, and this could straighten things out. But likewise, the legislature could straighten it out also. So there you go. Lawsuit calls Florida license plate law unconstitutional amid citations being issued. James sent a thanks a lot. Sophie Pedro wrote that for CBS 12, also reporting from NBCMiami.com. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. At the top, I told you there'd be an ad at the end of the video, and here we are. I'm here to talk to you about Factor. And Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals straight to your doorstep, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Designed to support your wellness journey, Factor helps eliminate stress around cooking, planning, or cleanup so you can stay focused on your goals. Here's the deal. I put away my snowblower yesterday. I got the tractor out. Now, I didn't fire the tractor up because we're at that weird point right now where the ground is still kind of frozen and ain't nothing growing yet, but no more snowblowing. And so the seasons change, and my workload, it doesn't get worse or better, but it changes also. And so I'm thinking about stuff I'm going to be doing here, keep myself busy when I'm not making videos or talking about the law with people. And, one of the things that I talk about all the time is, as I prioritize the things I do on a given daily basis, I often don't prioritize eating food. So here's the deal. If you're like me and you really need somebody to help you out, with Factor, you can enjoy 100 or more rotating weekly options from meals and salads to breakfasts, shakes, and more, all crafted for great taste and nutrition. Now featuring double the seafood and double the protein options compared to last year, plus 20 new ready-to-eat salads and grain bowls. And this is the thing, is that if left to my own devices, I'll feed myself, but it becomes real dreary, real boring, and probably not so good for me. But when Factor delivers the meals to me, and down in the corner, like always, there's the box. I open it up, I grab a meal. In fact, this time you'll see I grabbed a meal and I changed my mind because I saw a better, more attractive meal directly underneath it that struck my fancy at that moment in time. And so the amazing part is that, could I make these meals myself? Possibly. I'd have to go to the store, buy the ingredients, bring them home, find a recipe, prepare all the food, make a big mess, feed myself, and then clean it all up. And who's got that kind of time? So the meals I unloaded on camera just a moment ago included African peanut curry and tofu, peppercorn spiced filet mignon, that's the one I'm preparing in the video, tomato herb barramundi, Baja chipotle shrimp bowl, short rib au jus, and ginger teriyaki salmon.
I fixed my kyphosis and hunchback in just 3 months, thanks to this. Here's exactly what happened. Week 1, you start feeling relief. The lightweight, flexible design pulls your shoulders back and supports your hunched spine. Your posture begins to improve, and you notice reduced strain on your neck and upper back. Week 4, your hunchback is improving naturally. Less slouching, less forward head posture. You use it while you're at your desk, and it makes your work sessions pain-free. Daily use helps train your muscles to stay aligned, and back pain starts to fit.
The preliminary report is now out on that Bombardier Challenger 650 crash in Bangor, Maine last month. If you recall, 6 people perished, 4 passengers, both cockpit crew members, died in that terrible crash. It was in the midst of bad weather, and there is a lot in this report that's being said. Here's the takeaway from it. There was nothing wrong with the airplane. Well, there was something wrong with it, but we're going to find out here in a minute exactly what it was and how this could have been avoided, because this was a completely avoidable incident. So let me take you back now to January 25th, 2026, at about 1944 Eastern. That's about 7:45 in the evening. This was a flight that originated in Hobby Airport down in Houston. They were on their way to Paris, France, but they can't make it all the way in a Challenger, so they got to stop midway and get fuel. So they fly up to Bangor, Maine, and if you recall, there was a big blizzard going through the Northeast. It was almost like a nor'easter coming through, really, really low temperatures, and low temperatures are going to be a huge factor in this, besides what the pilots did and didn't do regarding the weather that they had. They did some things right, but they also did some things wrong, and that's all here in the report. So they stopped in Bangor, they got out, they refueled the aircraft, and then, of course, it's snowing, and it's considered moderate snow at the time. The temperature is very cold, and then they go to the de-icing pad. And I'm going to pick up from the beginning of the de-icing, because it's very important that you understand second by second how much time it took them to de-ice, what they de-iced with, and more importantly, how long from the beginning of de-icing until they started that takeoff roll, because that's real important. It's called a holdover time, and I'll unwrap what a holdover time is here before we get done with this report, because it's the holdover time that basically kind of doomed the fate of everybody on that airplane. So at 17:13 and 42 seconds, that's 7:13 in the evening, the airplane began taxiing from the FBO. That's a fixed-based operator where they get their fuel and so forth. That ramp towards the de-icing pad. At 19:17 and 46 seconds, the airplane stopped at the de-icing pad and subsequently shut down the engines in preparation for de-icing. So that's all typical. They'll shut down the engines so that they'll get de-icing in fluid, or not fluid, but the fumes and so forth inside the aircraft. According to a preliminary report, the aircraft, the CCTV caught them and videoed them there getting the de-icing. The airplane de-icing process started at 19:26, and so I've circled that. And at 19:27, it concluded. What type of de-icing was this? It's the first of two different types of de-icing they're going to get that evening. And it's typical, especially in precip, ice or snow or freezing rain as it's coming down, to get two types of de-icing. The first is type 1. Type 1 is, and it says right here in the report what it is, it's an Inland Technology Safe Temp ES Plus. It's really just a heated water. I mean, it's not water, but it's a heated substance that gets basically gets all of the contamination off of the airplane to clean the wings, to clean the tail, to clean the rudder, to clean all the control surfaces. Next, all right, the application of type 4. Type 4 fluid is that it's kind of a gel, and the gel kind of goes all over the wings, all over the fuselage, any place that they want to anti-ice the aircraft. They'll spray this gel on. It's sprayed on with a truck, and there's an operator in the truck. And then as the airplane gets rolling down the runway, it just spreads out over the wing and all of the surfaces, right? And you can see it, and it's actually colored. A lot of times it's orange in color, right? So the application of Type 4 anti-ice took place at, and circle this, and remember this number, 19:27 and 43 seconds. So at 27 minutes after the hour of 7 p.m. is when they started the Type 4. It's not when they finish putting on the Type 4, it's when they start putting it on that you need to begin hitting the clock for your holdover time. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to calculate a holdover time. The easiest way is right in the iPad. There are applications that will have you plug in all of the information. What time did you start? What is your aircraft tail number? What type of fluid are you using? What are the outside weather conditions? The temperature, the precip, and everything. And all that information is readily available. The pilots had all that information. You plug it into your iPad, and then as soon as you start the de-icing process, where the de-icer will call you on the radio and say, "This is your certified de-icer. I'm beginning the de-icing process at 19:27 and 43 seconds. Boom, you push that into your iPad, and it begins to calculate for you how long that Type 4 fluid is going to last and be effective before you have to go back and get de-iced again. So in other words, the effective holdover time is how much time you have to get finished and get to the runway and take off before you have to stop and start all over again. And this is serious business, because once you get past that holdover time, the wings can get contaminated. And we're going to see here in a minute, I'm going to play a video for you, and you're going to see what type of precept they were up against and why it was so devastating on that particular night in Bangor. The report goes on. The reported airport weather conditions when the anti-ice fluid was dispensed included a surface visibility of 3/4 statute miles. You plug that into the iPad, right? An outside temperature of, get this, -16 C. Oh my word, that's super frigid. And a surface wind of 040 at 6 to 8 knots, and nighttime conditions existed during the de-icing, anti-icing process. All of that would get typed into the iPad. Following the anti-ice application, the airplane sat for 4 minutes and 51 seconds, so almost 5 minutes, before it taxied from the de-icing pad at 19:35 and 46. So how many minutes do we have? From 27 to 35, we're already at 8 full minutes. 8 full minutes until they started to taxi. And by the way, what's the other way that you can calculate a holdover time? Most airplane manuals will have a weather section in them, and you can go right in there and they'll have how to calculate your holdover time. And you can go into old-fashioned charts, put in your information, kind of, triangulate and go, okay, we've got, and you look at the bar across here, we've got, and it'll tell you how much time you've got depending on what you put in it. The easiest, obviously, is the iPad. At that time, 8 minutes and 3 seconds had elapsed since the start of the anti-icing process. So 8 minutes have gone since the start. The key here is the start. All right, continuing on. At 19:40 and 16 seconds, 200 feet before the runway 33 hold short line, and at 19:40 and 54 seconds, the tower controller asked the flight crew to report when they were ready for takeoff. So he's going to say, hey, guys, let us know when you're ready for takeoff. You're number one at the hold short. At 19:42, we're adding now 2 more minutes to the 8 minutes. We're up to 10 plus. The co-pilot told the tower that they were ready for takeoff on runway 33. All right, told them we were ready to go. At 19:42 and 56 seconds, another 6 seconds has elapsed, the airplane resumed the taxi onto runway 33, and at 19:43 and 4 seconds, another 8 seconds after that, the co-pilot read back the takeoff clearance correctly to the tower controller. They're on the runway, they're ready to go. It's been 10 plus minutes since the beginning of their Type 4 de-icing. I want you to listen, most importantly, you're going to watch this video, but I want you to listen to it as well, because it's what you hear that an experienced pilot in snow conditions would hear that somebody else wouldn't hear. So the first part of this video is it's a Ring doorbell cam, and you can hear in the distance the airplane crashing. We're going to get to that in a minute, but you can hear it on this, and you can hear the precip coming down. The second part of this video is a different camera. It's at the airport, and you can actually hear the type of precept, and I'll explain what that type is and why it's so important. There's the crash of the airplane. Dog barking. Secondary explosion.
An empowered elite stood in front of us, his hands glowing with deadly supernatural power. Every year we...
But listen to this. Do you hear that crackling sound? Now, if you had your eyes closed, you'd think it sounds like rain, or it sounds like maybe a fire crackling. Well, it's not a fire, and it's not raining, because remember, it's 16 degrees below 0 Celsius. Those are ice pellets. And I said this in the first video we did in this last month. These are ice pellets, and when a weather system is moving through like this, there'll be little pockets, potentially, of ice pellets. And they might not even make it onto the report that they got about field conditions, but you can hear it hitting the airplane. You can hear it on the windscreen, and ice pellets are just that. It's like little crushed ice, and they'll adhere to the wing like nobody's business. I mean, they just, like, metal and ice, it's a bad combination. And if your holdover time is expired, that Type 4 is not doing anything for you anymore, or it's not doing what it should be doing for you anymore. Now the question is, were they beyond their holdover time? All right, the report's going to talk about that in just a minute, so hang on. But I wanted you to hear the ice pellets in the background. So what's going on so far? The flaps are set correctly. The anti-icing is on. The switches have been turned on the airplane. The power is set correctly. Nothing wrong with the aircraft. They've got everything all set up correctly. They're on the runway. They're pushing up the power to get ready to go. According to the cockpit voice recorder, at 19:44 and 5 seconds, the cockpit announced that the takeoff power was set and that the airspeed indicator was functioning. So everything is going, they're rolling down the runway, right? At 19:44 and 18, the co-pilot announced that the airplane had reached decision speed. That's V1, that's their go, no-go speed. If they haven't rejected the takeoff at that point, they have to keep going on the runway remaining. However, according to the flight data recorder, the airplane was accelerating through 127 knots when the co-pilot made the V1 call out. At 19:44 and 22, the co-pilot announced that the airplane was at rotation speed, 139 knots. There's a short discrepancy here between the pilot's V1. He sees 136 knots, or that's what he calls out for the V1. The aircraft was really only at 127 knots. It's a full 9 knots slower. However, and this might just be some anomaly in the way that the information came out, when they get to rotate, both the rotate speed and the actual aircraft speed are the same. So that's a big nothing burger, I think. According to the flight data recorder, at the time the airplane was accelerating, it was accelerating through 140 knots, and that's when they begin to pull back on the yoke and start flight. So no longer are they a tricycle on the ground going 140 miles an hour. Pilots are pulling back on the yoke, the elevator will go up, the airplane will begin to, the nose will start to come up, and the wings begin to produce lift to get off the ground. Now, everything is normal up to this moment, but there's an impending doom that the pilots aren't aware of. One of the challenges with a Challenger is that they have a swept wing design, and any swept wing aircraft is susceptible to contamination on the wing. Now, the swept wing design is wonderful. They're very fuel efficient. They're long range airplanes. They fly very fast. But in those critical phases of flight, like takeoff and landing, there can be some issues if there's any sort of contamination on the wings. If the wings are clean and they're producing all of the lift, 100% of what they're supposed to do, no problem. No problem at all. In this particular case, up in Bangor that night, they had cleaned off the wings. They're approaching, if they're not already past their holdover time, and those wings are picking up contamination. Why? Because of those ice pellets that are falling on them right now. They don't know how much contamination are on these wings. They pull the nose of the aircraft off, and at 19:44 and 25 seconds, the airplane's radio altimeter was 6 feet. The pitch angle was 13 degrees nose up. The angle of attack was 19, was higher than that. 13 is a normal angle for rotate, and the airplane roll was nearly level. So the wings are level as they're pulling the nose off the airplane, but there's a discrepancy between the angle of attack and the pitch of the airplane already. It's going to get worse. About a second later, the airplane's radio altimeter was 11 feet. The pitch angle was 11 degrees nose up. So, 13, 11. They lowered the nose just a little bit. It's no big deal. All right. The airplane was in a 1 to 2 degree left roll. That's, you're going to, when you pull the airplane off, you're going to do a little of this. It's not, it's normal, right? The angle of attack was 20 degrees. So now the nose is coming up, but the angle of attack is increasing. So what that's telling us is that the wings aren't producing lift the way they should be. And so now the airplane is beginning to get into this wallow posture, right? And both stick shakers independently activated for about 1 second. What is a stick shaker? A stick shaker is a mechanism on nicer airplanes, larger commercial type of aircraft, that will shake the yoke when you're approaching stall. Stall is when the air over the wings is not producing the lift it needs to produce. And the airspeed typically will bleed off in those cases, but not necessarily. The airspeed could be okay, but the wings are contaminated. In this case, it's contamination on the wings. And stick shaker, now the stick shakes for 1 second. At that point, the pilot has their first indication that something's wrong with this airplane. If you have some altitude, you want to nose the plane over to get as much lift over those wings as you possibly can to increase your lift. But they're only at 11 feet off the ground, so they can't nose it over. At 19:44 and 27, the airplane's radio altimeter registered 14 feet. The pitch angle was about 9 degrees up, so they've lowered the nose a little bit, right? The angle of attack was about 16, so it follows the nose coming over, and the airplane transitioned from a left to a right roll, and here's where all the problems start. So we're in that little 2 degree left roll, but it's the right wing that's more contaminated than the left wing. So the left wing is producing some lift, maybe enough lift, but the right wing, no, not so much. It begins a right roll, despite the airplane not being equipped nor required to record control wheel position. As the airplane's right roll increased, the deflection of both ailerons increased to their respective limits, consistent with full left wing down control wheel input. What happened? As that right wing begins to act more like a Coke machine than a wing producing lift, it's just a big hunk of metal out there right now that's totally contaminated. The lift is not being produced. It's just basically dropping down. It's causing the airplane to roll violently to the right. The pilots do like this, right? They put full left aileron in until they get to the limit, it says here, and they couldn't put any more in. The airplane continues to roll to the right. This is, in some places, it's called VMC air. It's called a skidded turn stall. I mean, there's lots of different words for it. But basically, that right wing just stops producing lift. At 19:44:30, just before the FDR stopped recording, the airplane's pitch angle was about 6 degrees nose up, and the angle of bank was 77 degrees wing.
How do we stop it?
We need someone who can code in COBOL.
What's COBOL?
This is a job for sponsored jobs.
Indeed can help you get it right the first time. Sponsor your job on Indeed and get matched with quality candidates. Visit Indeed.com/hire now.
Down. That's that's almost a full 90 degrees. That would be a knife edge like this. They're at about 77 degrees. That's how much this airplane has banked in just a split second. Both stick shakers activated again during the final second of recorded data. Although the radio altimeter indicated 31 feet, this height value was likely affected by the roll angle of the airplane. Now here's the most important part. A preliminary review of the flight data recorder did not reveal any evidence of a flight control malfunction. There was nothing wrong with the flight controls on the airplane or a failure, and both engines continued to develop takeoff power until the flight data recorder stopped recording. So the airplane was doing what it was supposed to do, but that one wing wasn't producing lift. Why? Let's take a look at what a holdover time is. It's right here in the report, and they give us all of the minute details about the holdover time. The holdover time is an estimated period of which de-icing or anti-icing fluid will prevent the accumulation of ice, snow, or frost on an aircraft. According to the FAA holdover time guidelines for winter of 2025-26, the corrected snowfall intensity associated with 3/4 of statute mile visibility and at night and an outside temperature of at or below -1°C was considered moderate. So these guys are a lot colder than -1°C, but had they put all those information in, they would have come up with a moderate reading on their iPad or in their charts. Additionally, a moderate snowfall intensity and a -16 degrees C outside temp resulted in a maximum holdover of, wait for it, 9 minutes. Where were we when they started the takeoff roll? Something like 14 minutes. I think it was actually 17, closer to that. And it was from the start of the anti-ice application. That's where the 9 minutes, not the end of the anti-ice application, but the start. Not the 17 minutes it took them to take off. In the report back here, it talks about a discussion between the two pilots, where the one pilot, the captain says to the co-pilot, I think we've got basically 14 or so minutes of holdover time. We might have as much as 30. The co-pilot agrees with him. There's no reference as to whether they looked into charts or not. I think that was something he was doing from memory based on the type of fluid they were given. Again, they may have verified it, but if they verified it, they would have come up with a number like 9 minutes rather than the 17 or the max of 30 that they potentially, or they discussed before they thought they would potentially have to go back and get de-iced again. 30 minutes and 9 minutes, that's a world of difference. They were well beyond the 9 minutes that it took them to get off on this journey, and that ended up being fatal for them and everybody on board. So what it looks like is it was an airplane that was producing power in both engines. All the flight control surfaces were fine. They did get de-ice. It's sketchy on whether or not they verified exactly how much holdover time they had. If they had come up with that 9 minute figure, which was the accurate figure according to the FAA, they would have gone well past that and said, hey, wait a minute, we got to go back and get de-iced again. Or better yet, time out, let's go to the hotel tonight and let's brush off our ambitions and do this again tomorrow. None of those things happened. They ended up going well past their holdover time. And again, hearing the ice pellets outside at the time of the takeoff roll in the crash was one of the things that sealed their fate. Those little ice pellets will attach to those wings that don't have the de-icing fluid on them anymore, and that's what will contaminate the wing to the point where it just doesn't produce the lift or enough lift for them to get airborne. Complicated by the swept wing design of the Challenger, that airplane they rotated, they started to fly, and then they stopped flying. That right wing dropped through, and there was nothing they could do about it. The pilots valiantly tried to put in as much aileron as the airplane would allow them to right the ship, but they were too close to the ground, and sadly, everybody perished on this one. This is a lesson for all of my pilot buddies that are operating out of conditions like this. When you're up in the winter in the northeast of the United States, you got to pay attention and get into that iPad, check out down to the second what your actual holdover time is, and then if you think, you know what, this isn't the right day to go flying, have the courage to say, you know what, folks, I think we got to go to the hotel tonight. I know you want to get over to Paris and get your weekend started, but we want to get there safely. Sadly, this time it did not work out, and hopefully there are some lessons that we can learn from this. If there's any more information that comes out regarding this terrible crash up there in Bangor, Maine, we will come right back to you with the updates. But here's the preliminary report. Here's the information that we know so far, and it just has a sad and tragic outcome, and our hearts go out to the families, the many families that were impacted by this. Well, now you know. I'm Captain Steve.
There's tons of different options going on right now. Alright, this one looks good. Let's hop in. No, wait, this is the one I've been looking for. Dude, let's start bidding. Oh, dude, let's go. I told you. I knew I'd get it. I'm super hyped. Live auction bid.
And I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are.
I was originally scheduled on the first airplane. It was
Full version to this. Can you get out of the car? Or you know, like prisoner. Full version to this. Can you get out of the car? Or you know, like prisoner forever. Accidentally this child. It'd be a bit awkward, wouldn't it? I blooming love the Volvo XC60. I actually had one for 6 months in the early days of this channel back in 2017. But have things changed or evolved enough? Or is it time that one of us retired? That'd be the end of our beautiful relationship list. What do you mean? What's going on? Did you see it float out? Since it came out, this car's been facelifted more times than Simon Cowell. As you can see from my regards, no, I haven't at all. But underneath, it's pretty much exactly the same as it ever was. So the question is it actually time for some new blood? Or is there still life in the old dog yet? I need to investigate if Volvo's finally perfected the XC60 or whether it's hanging on life support. To do that, I'm going to uncover what really is new. Now, come in. What's actually the same? Volvo gives good wood. And whether the same can actually be better. I just love to stroke the knob. I'll also drive it to evaluate its performance, and at the end, we will know if Volvo have perfected the family SUV, and if I finally perfected the video car review. I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching Car Wow. The XC60 has a great interior. It looks wonderful and it feels fabulous. The one I had in 2017 had the light leather and I loved it. I would go for that. Unless of course you've got dogs or kids or worst of all both, then this black does make more sense. The design is not as edgy or futuristic as the latest BMWs and Audis, but to tell you the truth, I prefer it. I especially like the wood bits. Yeah, touch of open pore wood. Volvo gives good wood. The seats, they deserve a special mention as well. They are first class. Along with Lexus, Volvo does the best seats in the business, and that's a fact I will not have it disputed. Now this is the range topping Ultra version, so the seats, they're heated, they are cooled, and we've also got, look at this, a massage function there with all these different settings. And it does sort of feel like a massage, albeit one from a slightly arthritic masseuse. But that's the case with car massage seats, never that great. Anyhow, the steering wheel feels expensive and the controls are nicely damped. In fact, the heated steering wheel doesn't just get warm, it gets hot. You can tell this is a car designed by a Scandinavian company. Blooming gold in Sweden right now, I can tell you. Now, the quality of the rest of the materials, all very lovely. It's even squidgy on the door bins. The only thing that feels a bit cheap is this, look. the glove box cover. That's the only thing. Overall though, I think the quality in here is better than the latest German equivalent, and that's because they've actually got cheaper on the inside, whereas this Volvo basically hasn't changed. Who'd have thought 2017 quality would be better than 2026 quality? Hopefully you don't think the same about these reviews. Be kind in the comments. However, there are some things that I'm still doing in reviews that I did way before I even joined CarWow. That's right, shoving bottles into cubbies to test practicality. Let's see how this XC60 measures up. The best thing about this car's interior for me though is the knob, because I just love to stroke it. Look, it's glass. It feels class. Now you get it on all but the entry level car, though to be fair, once again, that is the same as it ever was. However, there is something about this XC60's interior that has changed, and it's quite significant. The infotainment screen is all new. It's bigger and better than before and has some key updates. For instance, you've got 21% better pixel density, so things just look sharper. Also, the processor behind it operates at twice the speed and can handle graphics at 10 times the speed. Look, that's quite whizzy, isn't it? Now, all the car's functions are still controlled through this screen. You do have some shortcuts here for your volume and stuff like that, and your window demist, but your climate's always here. But it's easy access, to be fair. It's not too difficult to operate, and you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, though it's wired. Which begs the question, why have you gone and fitted wireless charging for your mobile phone? Because ultimately you're going to be plugged in with your phone to use.
What's the address of your emergency? Hurry up, he's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me. You need to come down.
On April 5th, 2023 in Marshall, Minnesota, what you're about to see is a disturbing case and a stunning court drama that dragged on for almost 3 years.
I'm Adam with the Marshall Police Department. What's going on today?
I have no idea what's going on. She said, "Can I use your phone? My boyfriend just beat me up." And then all of a sudden, they just slammed and brushed my fucking door.
I was sitting in my room playing a video game and I heard a bunch of shit going on out here. I came out here and he's had her in that corner of the brick over her head, and I tackled him. I held him and I was yelling at my dad to help me, so we both held him down, and then he tackled him to the ground. I ran to my room and grabbed my shotgun and he ran.
My door, that door.
So she lives down there. She came here, knocked on the door.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then he came here, and that's when he hit her in the head with the brick. You saw
my door down.
Broke your door down.
Here's the pieces.
Okay, I have no idea who he is. Never seen him in my life. Either her, either. What's it?
I was just going making dinner, and then he's trying to hit me with a frying pan. See my food all over the house.
You got a camera? Yes, we do have a front camera right there. You have a camera? Okay. We got clearly enough for, hey, we got enough for 15 on him, for sure. Do you want an ambulance, ma'am? We probably should get you one. You got a good gash on your head. Just sit tight. We're going to have an officer come over and interview you. Let me grab a camera. You want to start to get statements, Everman? Or Kaylee, whoever's going to interview him? Do you have a cut anywhere that you can see? I mean, obviously you were bleeding. Yeah. Let me get a camera. We're going to start taking some photos, okay? Just sit tight.
Hi. Do you mind putting the dog away? We're going to have an ambulance moment. Are you feeling okay? No. Do you want to sit? How about you sit?
I asked him, like, I don't know how many times over that was that brick.
How's it called?
Yeah, hit me shot in the head with it. Bust my door. Bust off my walls. Threw the frying pan over.
Shotgun, you would have probably still been here. My head pounded.
Just sit down, relax, try to calm down.
Sitting up playing a video game. That's what I heard. Yelling, I thought it was my mom. That's normal for her. I came over here and I seen some black dude saying over her. That's all I see. That's all I know. I've never seen them in my life.
You think you're going to be influenced or something?
I have no idea. She might need medical attention.
Yeah, she does. We got an ambulance.
Alright, she got an ambulance coming.
I think I'm okay.
You sure that?
Yeah.
She's getting it.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's getting it.
And what's your name, ma'am?
So you live here?
Mm-hmm.
You live at 105?
Yeah, you handle the ones that live here.
Okay, so what happened at 105?
Last night we got in a fight, so we broke up. I split up with him. So what was going on? He told me I was talking to somebody else and I wasn't. So today he shut my phone off, so I went on the phone, and I was talking to my mom and this and when he came in and choked me, I died for like 5-10 minutes. And he said, I'm gonna kill you. I told you I was gonna kill you. He kept beating me up, so finally I got him to let me go to the bathroom. And he was calling my ex-boyfriend and ran up to the door. He's coming over here and that's what it happened.
So you were able to escape to the bathroom?
My back door.
Through your back door?
Yeah, then he caught me right there, so he just ran me back in my car. And I ran here and asked to use his phone, and that's when I saw him with the brick. And I told him he was coming, and that's when he tried to break in the door. I tried to shut it. And I ran, and he hit me with the brick a couple times.
Outside, he hit you
right here.
Or right here?
And then I ran and left down for the accident.
Ma'am, just to make sure I understand, he choked you back at the house?
Yes.
And you said you couldn't breathe?
Yes, exactly.
How did he have his hands around your neck? Are you able to look up a little bit just so I can see if I can see your neck?
Here, next blood up. Is that your blood or her blood? I have no idea whose blood it is.
It was her when she caught you. She didn't look that bad then, but she was just bleeding out the mouth.
Like I said, I came out of my room and he was standing over top.
Right after that, he should be out of there.
Did you answer the door or did he answer the door?
I answered the door.
You answered the door.
And asked, she said my boyfriend just beat her up and asked if he could use my phone. So I let her use my phone. Next thing I know, my door's getting kicked in.
Right here.
I don't even know how she could do she was here. She
holding the brick right there. Oh, yep. Are you able to see his face better on that or all? No, that's wearing a Reebok sweatshirt. Can you tell what color that was? I think it was like maroon, red, something. It was a black sweatshirt? Black. It's hard to tell. My head's pounding. Your head is pounding right now? Well, we have the ambulance come to check her out. They can check you out. I'm sure it'll be alright. No, adrenaline there.
Oh, as soon as he come out with a gun, he ran.
I got the worst of it, I think. So Tracy, after he kicked the door, and then what happened again?
She was there. She threw her on the ground, taking the brick and hit her in the head, and then.
So he hit her in the head multiple times with the brick?
Yeah.
You were hit with the block as well, sir?
Yes.
Okay. At what point did he hit you in the head with the brick?
We were standing right over here, and he had her. And he just took it and hit him like that.
And that was as you were running up to tackle him, or after I grabbed him, I tackled him into the wall,
and then he hit you with the brick like that.
Yep.
Okay.
I let go of him. My dad had a hold of him, and I said, "Dad, hold him down." And I went out there, went in my room, and grabbed my shotgun. And at that point, he was up with the frying pan.
Who was up with the frying pan, Dad, or no?
Yeah, he was gonna hit me with it. So I hit him with that stick.
Okay, so that's when you.
And I came out with my shotgun, and I pointed it at him, and he ran out.
Okay.
Broke his door too.
His doors broke as well. So he did make it down there. Can I see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. There's food on the floor here.
Yeah.
So
Down here
with the pan. Was he chasing her when